For me, memories of childhood are filled with fear, loneliness, and sadness, and yet I cling to those memories. I don't remember where I was born. I only remember the shadows and cobwebs of the castle where I lived. The crumbling stones of the corridors were always damp, and there was a horrible stench everywhere, like that of rotting corpses. It was never light inside the castle, nor was there any sun outdoors, since the trees grew taller than the highest parts of the castle. Only a ruined black tower rose above the darkness of the forest, but it could only be climbed by scaling sheer walls. Someone must have cared for me when I was a child, yet I can't remember who. I can't recall any living creature in the castle but rats and spiders. To me, there was nothing grotesque about the bones and skeletons that shared the silence with me. For me, they were more natural than the living beings shown in the illustrated books I read. I don't remember hearing any human voice in all those years, not even my own. I didn't even know what I looked like since there were no mirrors in the castle. I believed that I must look similar to the children drawn and painted in my books. Outside, under the dark trees, across from the stinking moat, I would dream about what I read. The laughter, the joyful crowds, a sunny world beyond the endless forest. Once I tried to escape, but I ran deep into the woods. I grew afraid and ran back to the castle. I dreamed and waited until I could wait no more. I decided to climb the ruined black tower and reached above the trees. Even if I fell, it was better to glimpse the sky and die than live forever without seeing the outside world. In the twilight, I arrived at the bottom of those broken stone stairs and began climbing. When the steps ended, I continued by clinging to small footholds. I went terribly slow, for the climb was very difficult. After a long while, I came to a trap door. I opened it with great effort, and crawling through it, I found only more stone and darkness. Terribly disappointed, I went up further, holding on to the slimy, wet walls until I came upon an iron gate that opened unto moonlight. I went through the gate carefully, fearful of falling from the amazing height to which I had climbed, but I received a shock. Instead of treetops, solid ground stretched out before me. It was as if I hadn't climbed at all. My stunned mind no longer cared whether my experience was insanity, dreaming, or magic. I was determined to gaze on joy and light at any cost, so I started walking. I wandered through open country and meadows. I swam across a river. Over 2 hours passed before I reached what seemed to be my goal. A castle in a wooded park that was very familiar to me, yet full of strangeness. The moat was filled in, towers were gone, and other new ones existed. But what interested and delighted me most were the open windows, filled with light and sounds of happiness. Coming closer, I saw a room with people in cheerful conversation. Since I had never heard human speech before, I could only guess at what was being said. I stepped through the low window, moving as I did so from my single bright moment of hope into my darkest nightmare. For as soon as I entered the room, the people in it were running frantically, shrieking with panic and fleeing in terror. Alone and scared, I trembled at the thought of what might be lurking near me unseen. I thought the room was empty, but when I approached the golden arch of the doorway leading to another similar room, I discovered that this was not the case. Beneath the arch was a strange presence. I uttered the first and last sound I was ever to make. a ghastly noise as revolting as its cause. Before me was a ghoulish figure of decay, possessing the most repulsive and deformed features that could ever come together in a living being. God knows it was not of this world. Yet, to my horror, I saw its eaten away flesh, and in the bones sticking out of its skin, a human form. But it was the nauseating image of a creature that had no right to have been born. Its hideous eyes stared at me with a foul expression, and when I stretched out my hand to shut out the sight of that horrendous monster, the thing's rotting hand touched my fingers. Memories flooded my mind. I recognized the creature before me. I suddenly knew what I was, a stranger among those who are still men. I am an outsider. This I have known ever since I stretched out my fingers and touched the smooth, cool surface of that mirror.